Hello, welcome to this course on learning Python, a complete course for beginners. In this video, I'm going to cover variables. If you have any programming knowledge other than Python, if you have written some code in C, C++, then you might think that you already know enough about variables. That's not the same or all about Python. There are some differences in the way Python and C++ or C, Java, and various other languages deal with variables. There are some differences in the way Python deals with variables and other languages like C, C++ or C Sharp deals with variables. So it's worth to see this video on variables in Python. So in this video, I'm going to introduce you to variables in Python, and I promise it's worth watching for beginners and even for advanced programmers who have worked on other languages. What is a variable? As the name implies, a variable is something which can change. In a programming language, we use some reserved memory locations to store values upon which we work on. A variable is a way of referring to these memory locations used by computer program. It's a symbolic name given for a physical location. The memory location contains values like numbers, text, or more complicated types. This means that when you create a variable, you reserve some space in memory. Based on the data type of a variable, the interpreter allocates memory and decides what can be stored in the reserved memory. Therefore, by assigning different types to variables, you can store integers, decimals, or characters in these variables. We can use these variables to tell the computer to save some data in the location or to retrieve some data from this location and even change it again as per our requirements. What we have said so far about variables best fits the variables how they are implemented in languages like C, C++ or other languages. Above that, variable names have to be declared in other languages. Like what you see here, int x. So we are saying it's of type integer and the variable name is x. Int y says it's of type integer with the name y. These lines declare two variables of type integer. These declarations make sure that the program reserves memory for two variables with the name x and y. The variable names are the references given for the memory location. It's like taking two empty bottles and naming them x and y. Like the two empty bottles, the memory is empty as well. Putting or storing some value into these variables is known as assigning values. So whenever I say assigning a value, I am actually storing some value into these variables. Assigning value into a variable is nearly the same in all programming languages. In most cases, the equal sign is used. The value on the right side will be saved into the variable name on the left hand side. Now you see this line of code. The value which is on the right hand side, which is the 5, is stored into the variable which is on the left hand side, that is x. By here, as per this line, I am storing or assigning 5 into the variable x. The same way, I am assigning 10 into the variable y. In this code, as I have said, we are assigning the values 5 and 10 to these variables, and this will save these two numbers physically into the memory. It's the same like storing the number 5 into the bottle x and storing number 10 into bottle y. We can access the value in these variables, which is the same as reading the numbers from the bottle. We can also assign new values into these variables. Though it looks very simple, there is a lot going on inside the system. Changing the value is the same as assigning a value. So in those programming languages like C, C++, every variable has to be declared before it can be used. Declaring is like binding a data type to a variable. Now you got to know what exactly are variables in brief. I told you that it's not the same in Python compared to other languages. Now let us see what is the difference here. Variables in Python. Unlike other programming languages, there is no need to declare variables in Python. You can't even declare them. If you need a variable, then give it a name and start using it directly by assigning a value to it. I told you that we can assign, fetch and reassign values into a variable. However, in other languages, since a variable is tied to a particular data type, we cannot change the type of the variable. We can only change its value. But another remarkable aspect of Python is that not only the value of a variable can be changed during program execution, but we can change the type as well. You can assign another integer value to a variable, use it as an integer for a while, and then reassign them to a string variable. Let us see all this in some examples. I'm creating a Jupyter notebook and I've also shared it on GitHub. You can actually access it from there. Now, if you see this line of code, here, instead of declaring, I'm directly assigning a variable. So I'm saying x is equal to 5. This is how we assign a value 5 to x. And now since the value is 5, it's an integer, Python automatically declares this variable is of type integer. So it will take it as an integer variable. We'll see how to find out that in the later part. Now I'm also declaring y is equal to 10. I'm declaring z is equal to Python. Here I'm declaring a string. The difference between the previous declaration and making this as a string, because it is within these double quotes. If you remember in the previous video I said how do we create string literals. Now here it is a string. I'm assigning that to z variable. And the same here, f is equal to 1.25. Since it has a decimal value, it is a float, so I'm going to print the values. Now if we run this line of code, you can see I'm printing the values that I've assigned. Print x, it gave me 5, and then y is 10, z as Python, and then f as 1.25. This is how simple it is in Python. This equal sign, as I said, acts as an assignment operator. It is not to be considered as an equal to operator. We can't read it as z equal to Python. Z is been assigned a value, whatever you see on the right hand side. The right hand side value is assigned to z. So you should read this line as is set to. Z is set to Python, or you can say Python is set to z. Now since we have declared it, let us go ahead and increase the value. I am going to demonstrate how we can reassign the values. What I am doing here, I am saying x is equal to x plus 1. What is x now? X is 5. I am increasing it by 1, and then I am printing that. If I run this line of code, you can see the value of x is 6. In other languages, since a variable is tied to a particular data type, we cannot change the type of the variable. We can only change its value. But in Python, as I said, we can also change the data type as well with the value. We can see that here. Here I am printing the value by adding x plus y. And then what I am doing, I am assigning a value hello to x. What was x till now? It contained a numeric value which was 6. I am changing the data type here and it is acceptable. This is not acceptable in other languages. If you try this in C or C++, it will throw an error, but here we can do that. I am adding y plus 0.55 and I am printing. Here what I am trying to show you is data type is changed from integer to a floating point. Earlier we had y10 and now I'm changing y to a float. Even this is acceptable. If we run this code, you can see that earlier they both had integers. X had 6, y had 10, which we had initially assigned to it. I modified the value of x from an integer to a string. It worked. It printed hello. And then I modified the value of y from an integer to a float, and it still works. Now you just take a look at this line of code over here. Y is equal to x. What does that mean? I'm setting y to the value of x. So x currently holds the value hello and y has the value 10.55. When I assign this, what happens? If you remember earlier I said this is a name that is referred to a memory location. Now I am saying y is equal to x. So now y will also refer to the same memory location. That means both these variables are referring to a same memory location. You should not take it as the value of x is copied onto the location in y. Here it's basically they both are referring to the same location. So what happens to the previous memory location? That location is orphaned after this assignment, and after some time when Python interpreter sees that okay, like it's not used anywhere, it will remove it. Now if I go ahead and run this y, you can see y prints hello. Why? Because they both are referring to the same memory location, and that memory location contains the value hello. If I go ahead and change, like reassign the value 25 to y, Python will create a new integer object with the content 25, and the variable y will now reference to this newly created object or memory location. Now I assigned it. If we print again y, you can see the value is 25. I was speaking about the memory location all along. Let me show you that. How do we get to know where it is referring to? We can find out by using this id function. How do we use it? We can write id within round brackets. You can give the variable name, and then it will give us back the memory location it is pointing to. Now here I have x is equal to hello, y is equal to 10.55. I'm assigning them, and then I'm going to print their memory location address. You can see this is the first part is the memory location address of x. The other one is the memory location address of y. Now I am assigning y is equal to x. I said they both will now be pointing to the same memory location. If I run this code, you can see they both point the same. If you see earlier, the memory location address of x was this and y was this ending with 28. Now if you see, x still remains the same, y it has changed, and now it is the same as x. Now if I change the value of x, I am changing it to 25. You can see that now x has got another memory address. That means this 25 was created and stored in a memory location, and that address has been given to y. So by this way we can actually see that how internally the memory is allocated and referenced. Till now we have seen like x is equal to hello, y is equal to everything in a different statement. Let us see about multiple assignments. In multiple assignments, Python allows you to assign a single value to multiple variables at the same time. Now if we see this particular line of code, I am assigning 100 and I am giving a is equal to b is equal to c is equal to 100. What is happening here? I am assigning the value 100 to all the three, and I am printing, and I am also printing the id. What do you think it's going to be? Let us run it. Now if you see, it has printed the value 100 has been assigned to all the three, but if you see what is happening, the memory address of all the three is same. So what happens in this case? The rightmost code gets interpreted. So here c is equal to 100. So now memory location is created somewhere. 100 is stored into that, and that address is given to c. Now when I say b is equal to c, whatever is there in the c, the memory address will get copied to b. The same happened to a. That is why we get all the three referencing to the same memory address. You can also, not just this, we can also assign multiple values to multiple variables. So here if you see this code, I have a variable named item and then a variable named quantity and price. I'm saying equal to, and then book, comma 5, comma 50.55. So here what I'm doing, I'm creating three variables called item, quantity and price, and assigning the values book, 5 and 5.50.55 to these variables respectively. That means the book is assigned to the first variable item, the second value 5 is assigned to quantity, and 50.55 is assigned to price. Now when I print the value, it will print whatever is there in this, and you can also see their memory locations. So let us go ahead and run this. When I run this, you can see the value, what I am printing, item, quantity and price. So book, 5 and 50.55 have printed. You can also see all the three have different addresses. So that shows that they are all pointing to different places. You saw this example where they were all pointing to the same location because there was only one value. Here all the three values are assigned, and this way they are pointing to three different locations. Till now you saw creating a variable, assigning values and reassigning values into the variable. But we can also delete a variable. How? It's very simple. You can use this keyword del and then you can give the variable name. Something similar to this. Del and f. If you check the code above, you can see that we have declared a lot of variable, right? And we also have declared f. That is, at the beginning, we created a variable f and we assigned a value 1.25. Now let me do one thing. Let me print this. When I print this, the value of f is 1.25. Now I'm going to run this code, del and f. That means I'm deleting f. When I delete f, it's removed. Now run this code again. I get an error saying that variable is not defined. When I run this, this is the error we get. The error is name f. The name, this particular variable, is not defined. So this is how we can also delete a variable. Let us start to print or output the variables. So for that, the print is the function. I think you are familiar with this function because you have seen it multiple times in the previous videos, how I've been using print. Not just previous videos, if you can see, just the previous command was print of f. The Python print statement is often used to output something onto the console. Now what I'm doing here, I'm saying print of hello. This will print a string literal which is hello over here by the print statement. The print statement is going to output this hello. In the same way, the second statement over here shows that print item. Now here instead of giving a string literal, I am giving a variable name. This is again a string variable name. The same goes for whether it is an integer or a float. Let us run this code. If you run this code, it prints everything. You can see this is a string literal we passed here. Then I have book, file, everything gets printed. One more important thing that you need to see is this plus symbol or the plus character is used to concatenate or combine two text variables. So I can say print a string literal, I'm saying name of the item plus and then I'm saying item. So this is a string literal, this variable contains a string. Now when we use plus, it will combine them. That is, it will print this value and then after this it will go ahead and print, or it will combine these two. So that becomes name of the item and whatever the value that is there in this item variable, which is book, and that gets printed. Now if I run this code, you can see the name of the book item is book. Now for price, what happens? Price is an integer variable, right? When I try to print this, I'm trying to combine a string with a number. We can't do this because they are of two different data types. When I run this, I get an error. What does the error say? The error says that we are using plus to combine string literal and a variable containing a number. So that cannot work. Can only concatenate string and not float because the price is a float. However, if we try with two numbers, something like this over here, I'm printing price plus 100. So price is already a floating point number, 100 is an integer, but it works because they both are numbers, so it gets added. And if one variable is a float and the other one is an integer, the output will also be a float, not an integer. Now if I say 10.45 and then execute this, you can see I get 151.0, not 151. That means though the result is an integer, it still considers that as a floating point number. Here in this case, the plus acts as an arithmetic operator. That's it friends for this video. Also with this video, I am going to share this Jupyter Notebook on the GitHub account. You can go ahead and access the same and work on it. You can also modify the code. You saw how to modify. Just click on the line and then change the value and then click here so that you can run this code. I'm also going to share an assignment notebook wherein I'm going to have quite a lot of sample programs that you can try it out. I would request you to go ahead and solve them so that will be a practice point for you. In the next video, I'm going to cover data types. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe and do like our video. That will encourage us to create more such videos. Thank you. See you in the next video.